Welcome back to another episode of Treknicity, a Star Trek podcast. I'm your host, Lars.
And I'm Patrick.
And in this episode, we're going to be talking about Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 9, Trusted Sources.
And I think I'm going to just say, let me get a couple things real quick before I get into spoilers. This is a follow-up to this TNG Season 1 episode, Symbiosis. It has a couple distinctions. It has the distinction of having two Star Trek alumni playing a couple characters. It has Denise Crosby waving behind Picard in the middle of a shuttle bay because it's literally the last scene she filmed on TNG. Of course, the next episode is Skin of Evil, where Tasha Yar gets off, but yeah. And most importantly and hilariously, it's the episode where Tasha goes for 2 minutes talking about how drugs are bad-ish to Wesley. And she doesn't mention rape gangs once.
Wow. You know she's serious then.
Yeah, because drugs are bad, okay? So just say no.
Yeah.
Seriously. That's literally what the whole point of that scene was, is to slam a Just Say No episode into an otherwise decent but not great episode.
Well, and that episode, Symbiosis, actually has a really good premise, you know. For those who have not watched it, we're going to just spoiler that too. The story is basically the Onarans are the victims of a plague. The Brickens are the ones who supply the treatment or medicine that helps them treat it but can't cure it. And something happens between the payment from the Onarans getting to the Breckens, so the Breckens won't give up the medicine. The guys are jonesing really bad.
Their ship breaks.
And basically, you know, the Enterprise gets dragged into a discussion, an argument about it. Picard decides to say, you know what, y'all need to figure this shit out yourself, and they basically nope out. Before they do that, though, they find out that Dr. Crusher discovers that the Onarans' plague was actually cured several years beforehand, like several decades beforehand, and
it's a planet of junkies.
Yeah, and these guys are just addicted to the medicine. They're actually not addicted to they're not actually not afflicted by the disease.
Not afflicted, just addicted.
Yep, pretty much.
So that's pretty much. So we're gonna we figure we get that out of the way because why not?
Yep.
So let's get into the spoiler half of this because this episode is like, holy shit, I can't believe that it ended this way. So we start with the captain's log that the Cali class may get a new job because Captain Freeman has a planetary follow-up initiative she's been pushing, and Admiral Buenamigo contacts her to say Project Swing By is a go, and the first planet they're going to is the druggy planet of Ornara.
Yep.
And because he's confident it's important, he's going to send a reporter.
From
of course, this freaks Freeman out.
So she starts basically cracking the whip.
Yeah. Now, and says, "Yeah, we got to get this. We have got to get this ship straightened out." Everybody laughs at this because, of course, then she yells and says she's serious. And the funniest line of the show, Ta'ana responds with, "Oh shit, she's serious," and they go running out.
Yep. Ransom and is it Ransom and Tiana?
And Shax.
And Shax, yeah.
Yeah, because apparently she's serious. It's glorious. So of course we come back as the shuttlecraft carrying the Federation News Network reporter, who for some reason has a nice badge that has this CBS-looking eye on it.
Wonder why.
Ransom briefs Freeman on what they know about the Ornarans, goes through the plot of Symbiosis, basically, and fun with Felicium.
Right.
So, of course, as they're doing this, Mariner walks in, covered in blueberry pie filling, literally making puddles everywhere as she walks, Freeman, of course, snaps at her for this, and Mariner reminds her of the annual pie eating contest, and that they should get the reporter to cover it and everything. Ransom suggests that Mariner make herself scarce, and Mariner just says, "No, reporters love me. I can tell her all the cool things about this. I'm like a mini captain and everything." Of course, as they get on the turbo lift, Freeman asks Ransom to start doing some reassigning some duty shifts because, yeah, that. So we cut to the bunks, and the other lower deckers, Boimler, Tandy, and Rutherford, are talking about all the duty changes because apparently they didn't even know they have an alpha shift, but alpha shift's taking their shift.
Right.
So Mariner walks in, still pouring blueberry everywhere she goes. It's glorious. Sorry, I'm having a fantasy of Mariner covered in blueberry. No.
Is this where we
And
make a
Mariner
joke
just
about
says, "Hey,
Jennifer?
we just got to make Freeman look good. That's all we got to do." Of course, at this point, Freeman and the FNN reporter, Victoria Newsay, come walking by, admiring the view out the back end of the ship. Mariner, of course, walks over and offers her a tour. Freeman kind of cuts her off and says, "You need to get dressed for your next shift," turns out the lights, and takes the report away. On the plus side, Mariner figures, hey, more time for pie eating contest. Of course, that's been canceled. They go in. They go in because they're talking about how Rutherford distended his stomach and everything, and Tendi learned how to dislocate her jaw for more pie, and they walk in, and security officers are just dumping pies into the replicator system, poofing them out of existence. They try to talk him into giving them a pie and said nobody's allowed. Rutherford starts begging because he's been starving. The other guy reaches for his phaser and tells them to stand back. The others start to walk out, intending to go to the bar and complaining because they don't get to enjoy some sugary diarrhea goodness. But Rutherford's begging and says, "Give me some pie!" Rips his shirt and begs to be stunned. It's glorious.
Yeah. Again, that brings back memories of a Simpsons episode where groundskeeper Willie does a similar thing and is asked to be greased up by lunch lady Doris.
Yep. So Newsay starts interviewing. We get to see her talking to Ensign Barnes, to Security Chief Kayshawn. Of course, she kind of misunderstands us to Marion, of course, because that's always the case. We get to see Kim Lu and Matt from Cetacean Ops, and of course Ransom, who's doing his best creepy first officer horn dog routine, making Riker and Kirk look positively tame. Yeah. Of course, this being our 21st century, yeah, she's not impressed at all. So, Mariner and Boimler and Tendi and Rutherford all get to the bar, find out that it's closed. It's now the captain's taken over, and it's the captain's lounge, and they're doing interviews in there. And
right.
Of course, Jet's sitting there getting interviewed, and points out that he's on the list of approved interviewees. Of course, this pisses off Mariner, and she absolutely says she's going to get the truth she's going to tell the truth to the reporter at some point. I think we know where this one's going because she's going to find a way.
Yep.
So Cerritos rolls into Inara, and they're not sure. And of course, they're not sure what's going on because obviously this was a planet of junkies that went cold turkey. So they transport down and find out everything looks perfectly fine. Everybody's walking around, and they find out local magistrate comes up and lets them know they don't need Starfleet. They've they've gotten over their addiction. They've devoted their life to fitness. They even show them a mural. The mural starts with the D flying away, and everybody reaching up their hand. Then it cuts to some crazy drawings of everybody losing their shit for over a decade, 10, 12, 14 years.
Yep.
Then some scribbles, and then, of course, them all embracing health, and we get nicely shaped bodies and a bare ass and everything, and it's glory. It is a beautiful thing.
And how long has it been? It's like 17 years?
Yeah, it's 17 years. So yeah, for the most part, they were up shit creek, and then they kind of figured it out. So obviously, this mission's not going perfectly because there's nothing to really visit. So Freeman rings up Buenamigo and tells him everything's fine, and they suggest going back to the one planet with Landru and see if they start worshiping him yet again.
Wasn't that like Omega 3 or something like that?
Something like that. But Buenamigo says, "Hey, go to Brecca, go to the drug dealers and see if they need assistance, because why not? Maybe they're in trouble." So they beam up to the Cerritos. As they're leaving, Mariner's waiting outside of Nuzay's quarters, grabs her and takes her in to tell her what's really going on the ship. And they go, and of course Ransom sees this. So we cut to Freeman. She's sitting in a ready room waiting Nuzay, and who walks in. She starts talking about how great the Cerritos is, and how then Nuzay starts launching into interviews about the chaotic environment, starts questioning all the crazy shit that's happened on prior missions. And Freeman's basically holding it in because she's pretty sure she knows who did this shit. I wonder who she thinks did this shit.
Who could it possibly been?
So Mariner's called to the bridge. She walks on. Everybody's kind of giving her an angry looks. She tries to break in with her usual humor, and no.
Nobody's buying
So
it.
she goes in the ready room. Freeman and Ransom are there. And she points out, I think the crew's kind of having a problem because of the reporter. Ransom points out she saw her talking with Nuzay, and Freeman demands to know what exactly she said. Mariner says while she was on the list, she would tell Nuzay about what's really like to work aboard the Cerritos. So Ransom tells her she crossed the line, and Freeman just completely loses on her. Tells her she's already transferred her to Starbase 80.
Which we know from a previous episode, that's basically the hellhole of Starfleet.
Yeah, it's the hellhole of Starfleet. We get to see a little bit of it, just enough to know it is the hellhole of Starfleet.
Yeah.
Freeman just questions even if she still can look at her as a daughter. And Mariner, of course, walks out because she knows. She knows what she said. And
yeah,
this is bullshit.
Yep, pretty much.
So she's walking down the corridors. All the officers are kind of giving her the stink eye and mumbling about her. She even comes up. She even runs into Jennifer, who's upset because Mariner's actions obviously hurt the entire crew, and they've been trying to make a good impression. Mariner says she did nothing wrong, but Jennifer doesn't quite believe her, and Mariner says you got to believe me, and she says she can't trust her, and obviously never knew who she truly was. Which, a side point, is kind of true, which is why she isn't figuring out that. Freeman comes over the comms and informs the crew of Mariner's status and says, "Don't talk to her."
It's pretty bad when the captain comes on and basically tells the entire crew to ignore another crewmate, or now former crewmate.
Yeah. So, wonder how they're going to get out of this one. So Mariner's in there. So Mariner leaves in tears, goes to her bunk, starts packing. Boimler, Tenny, and Rutherford come over and point out, "You've done worse than this, and we'll get it sorted out. We'll figure it out." And he even suggests make an apology, even if you didn't do anything. But she says goodbyes are worst, and she says, I gotta leave, and then says, I'm out, and
Pieces out.
Vulcan's out.
Yep.
So Mariner gets to the hangar, and two ensigns in shitty jumpsuits, in a shitty old shuttle pod, like season 1's Trek shuttle pod.
Yeah, it was like just like the really shitty Type 1 shuttle pod.
And I don't know whether they're wearing them here, but later on they're wearing the old TNG comm badges. Like, this is what you get. It's shit.
Yep.
Take it.
Exactly.
Hands her the jumpsuit, which is one size fits some, and a sandwich falls out.
The dude promptly picks it up and starts eating it.
Yeah. So they get in the shuttlecraft and depart, and we watch Mariner go away, and the ship go, and Cerritos go the other way.
Pretty much, yeah. So they take off.
So yeah.
After she takes off, they finally finish their trip to Brecon.
Yeah. To be honest though, when Mariner left, it's like, how are they going to get her back on the ship? Obviously, she has to do something awesome and get back somehow from whatever happened here.
Right.
So yeah, the Cerritos arrives at Brecca. Freeman gets ready to go down and gives command to Dr. Miglimu. He, of course, contacts his Meemaw because he wants to show her him sitting in the captain's chair.
Yeah. I gotta love Miglimu.
Yeah, I think he's my least favorite character. But he in small doses, he's perfectly fine. As long as that, yeah. So Freeman and the away team beam down to Brecca, and as they're walking, Freeman's telling Nuzay that Mariner's stories are biased and should also focus on the benefits of Project Swingby. But they beam down into a city that's pretty much deserted, windows smashed out. They split up and start looking for somebody. You see some movement in one of the buildings. We don't know what it is. Ransom comes upon somebody, and Ransom tells her that they're here to help. She gets immediately vaporized, and suddenly Breens start popping out of everywhere.
Yeah, I still can't figure that one out.
On fire, and they run like hell and get beamed back to the Cerritos. So, go ahead with what you're saying.
I would say I just don't. I thought that was kind of an interesting twist, but I just didn't see the point. I mean, what were the Breen doing there on this random world?
I have no idea.
I wonder if they will reveal that in the next episode or a later episode.
It's possibly. It's possible. I don't know. If they don't explain it, it might be a big strike on this episode because, like, seriously, did you just throw the Breen in for shits and giggles because we needed a bad guy to shoot and then save the Cerritos from?
Well, they needed a bad guy that was definitely, like, there was clear-cut indication they are the bad guy. Like, there's no negotiating with the Breen. But the other thing is that, I mean, this is the penultimate episode of this season, so they needed a MacGuffin so that the Cerritos would get its ass kicked, and then of course
again,
what happens after that happens.
So yeah, they come onto the bridge, throw Miglimu out of the command chair and his mother off of the screens. Like, seriously, Freeman orders Boimler to get the hell away from Brecca. They go flying out. 3 Breen interceptors show up, and they start kicking the shit out of the Cerritos. I mean, they try to damage. They try to hit them with torpedoes and phasers, but they're just not making a dent. And they eventually cripple the ship and start preparing to board. And then, not a spoiler because, come on, they're surrounded. Obviously, somebody or something's going to save them. In comes some unidentified Starfleet vessel and just starts blasting the hell out of the Breen.
Yep.
Blasts one, tears into the second one. The third one tries to ram the Cerritos, and it gets blasted into oblivion. So, of course, Freeman immediately wants to thank whoever's captaining this ship. Barnes says there's no life signs aboard the ship. But Buen Amigo hails them and introduces them and the reporter who's standing there to the new Texas-class starship, the USS Alito. First of fully 3 automated starships.
That have been
Let's see here. What's
phases.
a point that I recognized early on, and I heard mentioned that in Picard there's no automated starships like this, because obviously this involves like cybernetics, maybe some positronic brains running this, or who knows,
or some AI of some kind.
Exactly.
But I don't
Which
even,
obviously we know in Star Trek Future is a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't even think it was an AI. I think actually Buen Amigo was the one who was piloting. Wasn't he piloting the Alito?
I don't know if he was. No, he says fully automated.
I thought he said somebody was piloting it though. But maybe I'm remembering it wrong.
No,
this afternoon.
Yeah, I didn't hear him mention anybody piloting it. It sounds like it's fully automated. You know, like let's think of what other times have a starship been completely run by a computer?
Oh, you mean like M5?
M5 would be my first thought. Hey, how did that work out? Oh yeah.
Didn't it end up at the Daystrom Institute?
Yeah. Yeah, the Daystrom Institute seems to have a lot of evil computers. Hey, I think I know what that might be something for Peanut Hamper and Agamus to pick up on. Yeah, that could be where they're going, or the ship just go evil and then eventually end up at the Daystrom Institute. So Freeman's kind of confused, kind of baffled, but as Buen Amigo's obviously trying to make good face for Newsay, because he's explaining, hey, we just did classify the ship. Look at this. This is cool. Ransom does point out to Freeman, though, that, hey, we did find a Brian incursion, so yay. So, yeah, all's well that ends well. Except we cut to the Newsay's special. It's an expose of Freeman. She shows all the chaos and all the interviews of everybody who just ripped on other departments, how chaotic, how terrible thing. The only person she pointed out that said had nothing but praise was
Mariner.
that kid Mariner. And of course she got talking about the Cerritos as her second family. And of course she points out she got transferred off the ship because she was talking to the reporter without permission. So yeah, Newsay basically cast Freeman as a bad guy.
Yep.
Boimler, Tendy, and Rutherford realized Mariner was really not responsible. And they're kind of upset they didn't make her stay. So we cut to Freeman. She is trying to hail Starbase 80. Eventually she gets through to somebody. They're trying to smack, what is it,
It was a bat.
Pyrethian bat. So she asks to be put through to Mariner. He pulls up a fucking Rolodex and starts to oh, nope, I can't put you through to her. She resigned. So, and of course the camera gets knocked out by a broom. But Freeman's looking out, trying to figure out where Mariner might be. Of course, we immediately find out, and this pays off. What was the episode where they went? Do you remember the name of the episode where they were in the recruitment booth?
No.
Because that thread comes back. Mariner is working alongside the archaeologist Petra Aberdeen, and they're going to go find some mummy. They're going to go find some mummies. So they go to warp, and that's it. So Mariner's out of Starfleet as of the end of this episode. And we've got one more episode to find out what the hell's going on here.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, again, this is the penultimate episode. There's one more next week, and we'll see how they wrap things up. Maybe they get Mariner back. Maybe they don't. I don't know. I mean, there hasn't been any real super speculation on as to what what the next season's going to shape up like, other than the fact that it just has been renewed for a 4th season.
So yeah, it is possible that Mariner's not coming back for a while.
Maybe,
It's possible that there's going to be a mission just to track down Mariner.
maybe it's going to be
Of course, then again, what reason does Mariner have to come back? I mean, she might want the other lower deckers to join her, but but those 3 were the only ones that didn't look at her like she just like she hurt the ship.
Right. So I guess we'll see how it wraps up next week when we find out the exciting conclusion of season 3 of Lower Decks.
So yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, I
feel
it was a very good episode. It paid off on a couple of different fronts. Overall, I'd say I'd probably give it an A- in the great scheme of things, just because, it was kind of a little bit formulaic, but like the plot twist was really not a plot twist, because you saw it coming a mile away. But still, that's the worst criticism I have for the episode.
Yeah, that's probably the weak spot of the episode, but it shows how far Mariner has really come, in that she really was kind of buckling down and becoming the officer her mother always wanted her to be. And at that point when she was the one that was the voice of reason in otherwise everybody else saying stupid shit, she got the boot.
Yep. So we'll see how it plays out, because it's
so yeah. I don't think she's easily coming back here.
I don't know. I guess we'll see. So that's all the time we have for this episode of Treknicity. Please join us next week. Thank you again to all of you who do watch and whatnot, and also make sure you look down here. See those down there? See you right there?
Yeah.
See you right. Yeah, I'm pointing right
down
there.
that away.
That's all the social media stuff if you need to find
me.
us. And yeah, and that's of course that's him. That's him. And this is me.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you again for watching Treknicity. As always, here on Treknicity, we ask you to, or suggest, or encourage you even to rock out, which you Spock out. We will see you next episode.